Hello and welcome. Today I have an artist whose name is Daniel Gautier, and I have not met him personally, but we connected on Facebook. We have a mutual friend, and he will be sharing his art with us today. Hello.
Hello,
Hi, Daniel.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good.
So tell me about you, about yourself, and how you came into being an artist.
Well, like so many artists, I think a great majority, they have strong memories when they were a child and being an artist. I know I did, partly because that may be, for a lot of people, that's the apex of your imagination and your creative power. And a lot of time that is lost. And also it kind of defines what you are at an early age. And that also gets lost sometimes. And I could discern that in my own life, where I kind of lost a bit of that creative energy. But I remember just in kindergarten being an artist is one of my first and strongest memories.
Mm-hmm.
And it continued. I would periodically take art classes and I would draw some on the side, but it wasn't my main concentration. And the other, which is significant, the other creative element is the music, which is very important to me. And I carried that along at the same time. So I lost track of that a little bit going to college and following a path that wasn't my own, kind of losing that and following the family trait of lawyers and politicians, which was not me. And again, this happens to a lot of very creative and mystical people. Mm-hmm. And they lose their essence. And I lost a bit of that. But towards the senior year of college, I realized what I really like and love is literature and art and music. So I got back to it and started taking art classes. And then eventually, a year or two later, it was so much a part of me that I enrolled in graduate school, got my MFA in visual arts. So from there, it was a stamp of my being. So,
was the rediscovery, was it a gradual process, or was there like a significant event that made you want to pursue becoming an artist?
It was gradual in terms of the visual arts. But what is interesting, it was a process of complete rediscovery, mm-hmm. because it also happened in terms of writing and music, and actually learning certain things about mystical and spiritual traditions that are all interwoven. They're inextricably bound to my creativity. And when I was a child, I was so immersed in mythology, particularly Greek myth, and the knightly virtues and the round table. And actually, my discovery of tarot cards and the major arcana, where they're dealing with these same archetypes, and it was like what Plato called an anamnesis, a remembering of who you really are. Mm-hmm. And from that point, that led to investigation into all the mystical traditions and spirituality. So they were all interwoven, and my art is just an extension of that rediscovery and that expression, and being tied in some way to this eternal part of ourselves. Yeah. And art is one of the great vehicles for finding that and expressing that. So.
And you paint mostly, right? Do you do sculpture or other mediums?
No, but a very important part is my illustrations that I do for all my novels and books of poetry, children's books. They're all illustrated.
Oh, nice.
And those are pen and ink, and those go back to like the golden age illustrators at the 19th, 20th century, Edmund Dulac and Rackham and those kinds of people. So it's rather those are the two dual approaches.
Yeah. I can see some of your artwork there behind you. And
yeah.
Is this watercolor?
These are acrylics.
Okay. For some reason, it looks like watercolor, but it seems like you use very, you don't use a lot of paint, is what I'm
No,
getting.
yeah, it's more thin generally. And when I was in graduate school, art school, I was working in oils partly because we were working in a large warehouse space and it
Mhm.
could accommodate that. But when you're in a house apartment, the oils are much
Yeah.
harder to use. So
Can you describe your process for us? Or one of them?
yeah, that's that
Or
all,
multiples. It doesn't
all
matter.
encompassing.
Whatever you feel like sharing.
Yeah, there are different modalities because some are very explicitly uh, illustrating ideas, be they, and oftentimes from mythical or mystical systems or traditions. Uh, so there are some that are, um, for example, from Hindu scripture, like the four elements, the tattva symbols, and then you'll have an analog in the Judeo-Christian with the four archangels, and they're both centered on the four elements, the logoic elements
Mm-hmm.
that you find in all these mythic systems, philosophical systems.
Wow. I can see one right now, the more abstract one behind you. Can you talk a little bit about that? It's
Yeah,
to your left.
yeah, exactly. And this is in the last, 15 years or so, maybe 20. I've gone through very distinct stylistic periods. And the last 15, 20 years, I've been painting what I call my Ideogram series. So they're illustrations, materializations of ideas, particularly eternal ideas or philosophical ideas. And I've divided them into two methods, two modes. And one is the Dionysian, and this goes back to the Delphic mysteries of ancient Greece and the two gods, they're worshipped there. And Dionysus is the god of energy and spirit, and it's associated with music. And that's the painting on my right, which is freer and more gestural and
Mm-hmm.
has anthropomorphic forms in it. Whereas on the left, this is the Apollonian series, and Apollo is the god of the sun and form, so it's more linear. And more precise and more abstract. So everything follows this greater pattern that you can find if you study the various mystical traditions and philosophy, and akin to the archetypes and what Carl Jung was doing. So that suffuses everything I do.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I'm pretty directly illustrating one of these ideas.
Nice. What is your biggest fear when it comes to your art making?
I don't have many really. To use an astrological metaphor, I'm an Aries, which is a generative sign, and basically it goes head first, like the ram. And it's one of self-confidence, and that's one of the positive, negative attributes. And it can be egotistical, but it has a self-assuredness that you're doing what you're supposed to do, and regardless of whether it's popular and will be accepted by a larger public. And when you're dealing with these subjects, that's naturally the case. And you also know this if you're dealing with commercial galleries, what their general orientation is. So I just go ahead regardless. And also that's a matter of being loyal to your muse. What's your essential message and meaning in this life is. And that's one of the powers of art, that it allows you to have complete concourse and immediacy with this essential part of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it can express parts of yourself in ways that you're not even consciously aware. That's where you have a dialogue with the surface and the images of your work. And William Blake said, imagination, that's the divine principle. And art is a means of touching paradise, because you're able to access aspects of your consciousness and the deeper consciousness that you wouldn't otherwise have. And that's the difference between painting purely materialistic art, just what you see on the surface, and the idea this deeper idea or larger principle that you're getting at. And that's a whole school of idealist art that has to do with the symbolist artists in the late 19th century, and Marsilio Ficino and the High Renaissance and Botticelli. And so there's a whole tradition of a dialogue of higher principles and a larger cosmic order that you're communicating with and trying to touch and imbibe.
Yeah, not all art is like that though, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we go into like, is this art? Is it not art? What qualifies as art? But we'll leave all these questions for other people. I want to focus on your work. So you do participate in shows, is what I'm gathering. Have you shown your art?
Oh, certainly. I have for many years.
And where are you located? Because I'm not really sure I know.
Yeah, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, Santa Clara, which is next to
cool. So yeah, that's a good area to be an artist in.
Yeah, I moved out here many years ago after I graduated from getting my MFA, because I was in Florida, and the South was not really wouldn't welcome these ideas, and the West Coast was.
Although there is an art scene in Florida, except that they're more into landscapes and things like that, and the flowers. Yeah. Here's a good question. Why do you make art? Why do you paint?
Because that's what I'm here for, essentially. It's the means of fulfilling myself, my greater self. And also I feel that there is an obligation and a tradition I'm perpetuating, which has to do with this idealist tradition. And I'm trying to share with humanity this greater order and this power of spirit and self-realization that everybody has. And art can be a tool, be it it can be didactic, it can be instructional, which actually some of this painting is basically a diagram, a cosmic diagram of the journey of the soul.
That's a beautiful piece.
Oh, thank you.
I love the colors. It's just an amazing color scheme.
Yeah, it's a favorite. We all have some favorite children, although we might not admit it.
Yeah.
I have 3 or 4 that are favorites. That's for sure.
Nice. What has being an artist taught you?
I guess just to go deep inside yourself and try to discover, understand what you really are. And it's a means of also communicating parts of yourself that you couldn't otherwise do. And it's an implicit language. It's sometimes if you're dealing with landscapes or concrete scenes, then it's very clear what's being communicated. But if it's coming from this place where you're not even necessarily fully cognizant of all the interconnections, there are people that will draw from it things that you might not even have intended, because it's a product of your collective unconscious and this larger self. And that's what provides the fulfillment.
Nice. So on the other side of it, what stifles your process?
Oh, I can't really think of anything in particular. I'm pretty fluent as that goes.
Oh, okay.
But I'm working in all these different mediums. I'm writing and I'm creating music. So I'll take little time off from one discipline or the other, because I can't do them all at once. So that would be the only hampering limitation, probably.
And what inspires you aside from mysticism? Because I see that most of your work is replete with mysticism. You've got
Uh,
several kinds of themes going on. There's Kabbalah,
yeah,
there's yoga, there's hermeticism. It's like from every
yeah, it's
tradition.
yeah, and that's called syncretism, and
Mm-hmm.
it means coming a drawing together of the commonalities. And if you study the mystical traditions, you find that the teaching and the means for transformation are very much the same. That's what Carl Jung was doing in
Mm-hmm.
his studies, and I am a devotee of the Hermetic tradition, which is that whole lineage of mystical art that can be traced through the great idealist philosophers and mysteries, Plato, Pythagoras, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and also, I am a mystic,
Mm-hmm.
and I practice these various systems, and the Kabbalah, yoga, Kundalini, Raja yoga, philosophical alchemy.
Do you find that that helps you with making your art, being a mystic?
Absolutely, because part of what I'm doing is manifesting these worlds beyond, these larger idealist ideational realms. And if I can remember the quote by William Blake, I rest not from my task to open the eternal worlds, to open the eternal eye of man and woman inwards into the world of thought, into eternity, the human imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And he considered the human imagination to be the divine element. And this is what you find in mystical experience. When you're released, rather than taking 2 or 3 weeks on a canvas to manifest your vision, this realm, aspects of this realm allow you to project in immediacy and fullness. And that's why it's an analogical language. It's a language of symbolism. So in a certain respect, we are, as artists, we are divine creators. And we're drawing from this larger realm, this collective realm that embraces all of us and our greater humanity unto divinity. So I draw from that. And certainly sometimes some of my paintings are didactic, as it were. They're instructional in terms, and some of them are mandalic, and they're used as transmutative tools in this whole tradition, this Hermetic and mystical esoteric tradition. Uses art as a transmutational tool. That's what philosophical alchemy is. It's called ars regia, the royal art. Mm-hmm. It's the transformation of the lead of the body into the gold of spirit. And this is what we're doing in the process of creating, whatever your discipline is. Yes. You're making manifest this eternal resonance, beautiful. This absolute.
Beautifully put. Where can people find your artwork, and is some of your work available for purchase if anyone was interested, or you don't?
Yeah, I have prints available on Fine Art America. My webpage is the best place to go because it has links to all my videos, my lectures on this tradition, and has links to all the paintings and the books and
is that like your name?
Yes, just thegautier.com. It's pretty simple.
Okay. Well, this was a pleasant conversation. I don't know that I have any more questions, but if there's something that you feel inclined to share before we wrap it up, please feel free to do so. This is the time.
Yeah, nothing in particular.
Nothing. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your artwork, and good luck with all of it.
Okay, my pleasure. Thanks for
asking. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.